Good evening, Life Point, or good morning. I guess it depends when you're watching this. It's good to be with you this week, at least on social media. Hopefully everyone's staying happy and healthy and just using this time to spend time with your family. So I'm joining you from my home today, and I'm glad to do so. So if you just hear any farm noises, a rooster or a hound dog howling, that's just life on the farm. This week's lesson is from our Discipleship Project, Series 2, Finding Favor, and we're going to be talking about commitment. This series is called Call to Commitment, and all week we're just going to talk about commitment. So we're going to open up today just with a quick story about Noah. And Noah, when he was building the ark, well, we know he was most famous for building the ark. And you think about the task that he took on. For years he was building this ark. Him and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They were waterproofing this massive boat. And it was the largest construction project that anyone has ever taken on, especially by themselves, in the human history, up until that point at least. You think about how big this thing was back then. I mean, it was huge. The exterior of the structure was 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. And think how long it took just to cut down the trees, all the lumber that was needed for this massive boat. Certainly he was clearing trees around him, and eventually this boat was built, the outside of the structure was done, and it was huge, and it stood in the middle of a field, and there was no water nearby. And this boat couldn't be moved. I think about just the amount of labor that was needed to do this, him and his family that was building this boat, and I think about the things that I do around here, and we're talking about putting up a pretty large fence around the garden so deers will stop coming in and eating our garden. And we have to log all these fence posts, and we're going to be setting them in place, and just to think about all that work that has to be done, and we're going to set them up, and we're going to take drawing knives, and we're going to skim the bark off the trees and set these things down. And thinking about all that work doesn't get me too excited. In fact, we didn't even get started yet, I think, just because the task that's at hand. And I think about Noah and his family. They just tackled it every single day. They went out and they did what they had to do. And when you talk about commitment, they were committed for a long time. I mean, think about how crazy it must have looked to build a boat in the middle of a field. And I mean, no doubt people were calling Noah and his family insane. I think maybe when he was building, how many times did he strike his hand with a hammer? How many times did he think to himself, this is not worth it, the pain, the struggle? But he was committed. It reminds me of that old saying, how do you eat an elephant? Right? The answer is one bite at a time. You just have to keep going at what you have to do, and that's what Noah was able to do. Around the 17th year of Noah's project, his family still had a long way to go. They were waterproofing the whole inside and outside of the structure, and it was then that Noah began to build the levels and the stalls that were inside of the boat for the massive animals. And it's just amazing that whole boat was built, and then all the inside, that phase of the construction had to start. And the floors and the levels that had to be built had to be strong enough to hold massive animals. And just think about the logistical headache that it was. How were you going to put all these animals inside of this structure and not have them try to tear each other apart? And how are you going to keep them separated? Where were you going to store the feed at? How were you going to just do all this? And I think the thought, if you could just think of everything that had to be done at once, you probably would overwhelm yourself. But Noah understood that he was in it for the long haul. And even though it would take another 50 years to complete this assignment, what Noah understood was that he was committed to do what God asked him to do. So God asked him to do it, and he said, I'm going to do it. No matter how long it takes, no matter how much pain it causes or how much struggle, no matter what anybody said, he decided that he was going to be committed to God. I hope for today and for the rest of this week, we just remind ourselves what commitment looks like. And we could look at Noah's life and understand that he was committed, and hopefully we can make that same commitment ourselves. Have a great day.